Hi everybody, welcome back to episode 5. It's been a minute, but we're still here and we're still knitting. We're still making lots of things. My name is Charlotte. I'm a knitter and a maker who lives in the greater Seattle area. I'm from Washington State. I've been back here for about a year now. I've moved around a good bit in my early 20s, and I'm happy to finally be pretty much settled in the general area that I'm going to be. And so I've had a lot more time as of late to invest in the hobbies that I'm really passionate about, knitting and hopefully sewing in the future being one of them. On these podcast style videos, I like to talk about my current projects, any progress that I've made, finished objects, and just anything related to the hobby or adjacent hobbies that I find myself wanting to talk about or being interested in. We've been here for a few months now, and there's quite a few of you, and so I'm always excited to upload and to film because I feel like I'm going to get to hang out with some of you in a way. It's a bit of a weird online thing that I never thought I would be a part of, but here we are. I'll start out with what I'm wearing. I'm currently wearing the November jacket by TestKnit. I knit this up in a alpaca yarn that I purchased at Maryland Sheep and Wool, and just a fingering weight Shetland yarn. I don't even remember the name of it, but it came out great. I finished this earlier this year, and this has been the first day of fall that it's been chilly enough to wear it. I've just been chilling in this all day. I still don't have pockets on it. I need to just stitch them on. Maybe I'll do that after this. Probably not. But yeah, I love this. I need to de-pill it. If any of you have de-pillers that you like, leave a comment of what they are, because I don't have one and I need one. I think I want an electric one too that like sucks up all the stuff so it doesn't leave a mess everywhere, but let me know if you have a favorite de-piller. There's not many people I can talk to about that kind of thing. Okay, whips. I have made a lot of progress on my Talvinen sweater by Caitlin Hunter, and I'm very excited to share some of what this has been like to work on. So I'll show you the process thus far. It's really coming along super well. I think the color gets picked up really nicely. But as you can see, I've finished the yoke, and I've got about maybe 5 inches on the body. This has been a little bit of a journey. I originally cast on the size 2 of her pattern, and I hit gauge and everything when I did a gauge swatch, and I cast on size 2, and a couple weeks ago had knit most of the color work yoke. I had maybe 8 rows of color work left, and I went to try it on, and I took it off the needles, and it wasn't quite fitting the way that I was hoping it would. It felt a bit small, which I was surprised by, and so I ended up blocking it, hoping that maybe that would sort itself out. In this very rare instance, blocking did not just fix it. It was still too small. I wish I had taken footage or a picture of what it was fitting like, but if I could describe it, the neckline felt much smaller. It felt almost like it was hugging my neck and not like opening up as much as you see it as here. And I think that was because the color work portion was too narrow, like there wasn't enough stitches on the circumference. The increases came too slowly, and so rather than having a shape something like this, it was a shape something like this, and there was only so much stretch that had, and so it just didn't allow the collar to open up the way that it should. It felt tight across and over my shoulders, which is really something that I strongly dislike in a sweater. Even if something is fitted, I find that I prefer it when it feels like there's give and there's intentional shaping for all of our shapes as people and as women especially. And I felt like this just was too small. So I was in the position of, well, what do I do? I've done almost all of the color work. I kind of need to increase. I tried adding additional increases for those last little bits of color work, and it just didn't do much. And so I ended up biting the bullet on this, and if you follow me on Instagram, you will know that I did this already, but I actually frogged all of the color work and I redid it because I wanted it to fit properly. And so I've done this yoke twice now, and while it is lovely to knit, I was a bit ready for the yoke to be done. But I'll tell you what I did. I did 3 main modifications. The first one was I ripped back to the collar edge. So I left the folded over collar and I just ripped everything back up to that point. I did the same amount of short rows. I didn't increase the number of short rows that I had. What I did do though was in the pattern, they have one kind of starter round of a lot of increases right after the collar. And for that row of increases, I just figured out how many extra stitches I would need to do a size 3 of the pattern, and I incorporated those increases into that first round of increases. I think I needed like 10 extra stitches, so I just did 10 extra stitches of increases evenly distributed around the collar. I must have miscounted somewhere along the line because I did have to fudge a few increases where I was just missing a stitch. But you can't tell really, and I think that it accommodates okay for it. The second thing that I did was I added a row of increases earlier in the pattern. So in the original chart, she has maybe 8 rows of color work before she does that first row of increases. I did a row of increases like 4 rows before her first increase in the pattern. I wanted to do that because I wanted the neck to have more stitches to be able to spread open more. I didn't want to have the same problem, which would be that this increase would essentially end up being too steep and not hang properly, or not hang the way that I prefer for it to lay over the body. And I think that worked really well. I did forget that I added an additional row of increases, and I did all of the increases. So when I came to do the body, I had maybe 8 stitches extra, something like that. So I'm somewhere between the 3rd and 4th size for this sweater, which, as I'm knitting it up and looking at it, it is pretty big. It's going to be pretty roomy, but I would rather it be roomy than be too small. I think it will end up being a really nice, lightweight, but airy, not too sweaty. Like, it'll just be very loose and something I can chuck on if I'm going outside for a walk, if I'm going to the barn, if I'm going to on a hike, you know, wherever. By the way, the barn that I don't have, but my friend has a barn, and so I'm going to visit her soon, and that is the barn that I'm referring to. So that's where this is at so far. It's just been a long project, I think. I have knit what you see up pretty fast, given that I had to rip out so many times, but it still is something that I think, because I've had to do it twice, I'm just ready for it to be done. That being said, I am at the mindless part, and I am excited just to do some basic stockinette stitches. For the bottom color work portion, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I don't love how busy bottom of this sweater is in the original pattern. There's a lot of color work happening, and a lot of it I'm not super drawn to. I think what I'm going to do is actually a direct copy of what I saw Knitting Traditions do, which was she just did like the half portion of one of these trees at the bottom in white for both the bottom of the sweater and the sleeves. And I think I might just do that. I don't want a lot of craziness at the bottom. It's either that, or I might just do no color work at the bottom. I'm into that look, so see how I'm feeling when I get to the end of this. But this is my Talvinen sweater. Oh, and I'm using Realm of Phenol for this in 3 colors, and I have a display picture with all of that information that I'll post, you know, right here for you guys to see. My second project is my Tessellated Vest, and This is the pattern by Andrea Mowry that I am knitting with my mom. We're both doing it at the same time. There she is. I've made quite a bit of progress on this as well. I haven't measured yet, but I think I'm very close, if not already there, in terms of length and being able to split for the bottom, for the armholes. I don't know why, but I find that this is one that I don't often grab as like the project that I want when I want mindless knitting. It might be because I'm not used to knitting on metal needles and using such slippery yarn. When I knit, a lot of my projects in the past have been very woolly. They've been yarn with a lot of grip to them, and I typically always knit with wood needles. Metal needles are kind of a new thing for me. And while I like the idea of being able to knit very fast on slippy needles, I find that on this one, I've been having a real difficulty with my tension being different. Like you can even see in the middle of what's here, there's like an awkward line where randomly my tension was just way off. The bottom of this, the tension is tighter than what's on the top. I think that's purely because I'm not used to the materials and I'm not used to the metal needles. So hopefully blocking will rectify that a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, it's not the most enjoyable thing that I've worked on or that I have to work on. So I find that I have to really be disciplined with this one and get myself to work on it. It's not that I don't like the finished product of the yarn. I think it's knitting up really nicely. There's something about it just in my hands. I'm just not loving it. But I think it's just because I'm not used to it and I don't have a good mojo with it. I do really enjoy the mohair, or not the mohair, the suri that I'm using for this. It's this really great mustard color, and it's by the Farmer's Daughter Fibers, and it's their Oh Dang Suri and Silk Alpaca blend, and I just think it's really nice. I think I'm more of a fan of suri than I am of mohair. Unpopular opinion, but I think. But leave a comment which one you prefer, suri or mohair. I personally think suri is just softer overall compared to some of the mohairs that are out there. I do love mohair, but I just prefer suri, I think. I like the fuzz that it gives off more than mohair. So that's this one. Comment also if you've made this and how you like the fit. I don't know why, there's something, I hope that this turns out, but there's something in me that's just like, I don't know if this is going to be, I don't know if it's going to fit. I think because my tension is so off, and I'm like, well, maybe my gauge is going to be super off because what I did for a gauge was on gauge, but my stitch gauge for what's actually knitting up as is way different than the gauge that I did. So we'll see. Fingers crossed for me on this guy. I hope it comes out, but I just don't know. I need to just finish it though, because we're definitely past summer here, and that's very much kind of a summer knit. Okay, the last project that I have to share is my Fjelltur Light sweater, and this is the one that I'm using this Shenandoah Fibers for. This is my mom's gift to me, this yarn from Maryland Sheep and Wool this year. I think you all saw last time, but I did finish the body. This is a bottom-up construction. It's so soft. I'm holding this double with the Fiber Company, like their linen silk mix. Yeah, their Fiber Company's Meadow yarn, which is baby llama, silk, linen, and merino. It's quite the blend. This is an odd combination. It's not something that I would have necessarily expected to happen, but it's happened and we're here, and curious to see what happens with her. I do have one sleeve, or one bottom of a sleeve. How do you all measure your sleeves when you're doing bottom up? It's hurting my brain a little bit. I would think that I would just go from, you know, the underside of my armpit, but I'm having trouble visualizing how long or how deep the yoke is going to be because I can't adjust the depth of the yoke, which is something that I typically do when I'm doing yoked sweaters or raglan sweaters. I always adjust the yoke depth because I'm so tall, and my torso especially is much taller in proportion to like how long my legs are. My legs are a pretty normal length. I'm just all torso. I think that this arm is long enough, but I don't really know. I just don't know. I think that's also why I've made so much progress on my Talvinen because right now it's just mindless stockinette, and I just haven't had the energy to want to think about making these decisions. But I need to start making some decisions. I need to decide if this sleeve is done. I need to decide that my tessellated vest is ready to be split. I just have some decisions to make. So hopefully by the next time you see me, I'll have 2 sleeves and even part of the yoke done. I think if I go off of this portion of the sleeve being long enough on my arm to reach, you know, comfortably under my armpit, it'll definitely be long enough. And if it's too long, I can always fold the cuffs or whatever. But yeah, just let me know how you do that and how you measure that, because it's kind of hurt my brain a little bit. Okay, those are all the whips that I have right now. I did have my Ingrid vest cast on. I have not made any progress on that, and in fact, I only have 1 pair of 4mm needles. So, given what I'm going to show you next, I had to take that cast off of the needles because I need them for the project that I'm going to use this little gauge for. So this is very exciting because this is the gauge swatch for my first ever TestKnit with Spoonful of Talent. Lucy is her name. She's from Germany, or she's living in Germany. And I got accepted for her Golden Fall TestKnit sweater. I'm so excited. I want to shout out to my mom, Carrie's Fibers, for this, because she actually sent me the post that was like the lead up post to Lucy announcing this TestKnit, and I've been applying to TestKnits like crazy. I think being a tester would be so fun. It would be such a great way to really stretch myself and learn new skills and be forced to learn new things, because you're confined to a deadline and you have to meet the deadline. You have to finish the project, and maybe you're applying to a TestKnit that has a lot of techniques that you've never done before. This one, as I'll show in the picture here, is a lot of stuff I've never done before. I've never really done any type of lace. I have done some raglan sweaters. I haven't done this style of sweater in ever. I've never done this style of sweater. I've done cables and I've done color work, and I've done just standard stockinette type projects. So for the yarn I chose for this are also things that I've been wanting to try for a while. For the main color, I went with the Rowan felted tweed in the color, what color are you? 175. I don't think they have color names, but Rowan felted tweed in 175. This is a 50% wool, 25% alpaca, and then 25% viscose blend. This is one of those like cult favorite yarns. A lot of people love this yarn, and I've just never used it, so I wanted to give it a shot. And then the other one that I wanted to hold with it, because it's a DK held with silk mohair, was the Sonnaskarn tin silk mohair in this camel color. This is again, you know, Sonnaskarn, Norwegian yarn. Everybody loves this. But I've just never used it before. I'm trying to find the color for you. Again, they don't have names. This is color 2543 for this. And together, I think they are just so pretty, and they made such a pretty swatch. So I've been added to the group. I've been chatting with all the ladies and all the people. They're from all over. It's been just so much fun already, and I can't wait to see everyone's projects and post photos. And yeah, hopefully this will be my gateway into doing more TestKnits for people in the future. I think, you know, surprisingly, it was really hard to get accepted as a TestKnit. I think test knitting is its own genre of knitting all on its own now. You know, there are people who they literally only do TestKnits because you can only knit so much, and so many people ask them to TestKnit for them because they have a platform where they just are really good at knitting, or they're really good at making the pattern design look really good, which is kind of the whole point of a TestKnit. You know, you want to make sure the gauge and the grading and the pattern itself works. But there's also, I think, this element of, you know, it would make sense that designers want people to post photos and to track their progress and, you know, do all that stuff. So I hope that Lucy likes how it comes out. If you don't follow me on Instagram and you want to see more, you know, progress photos of this, just go follow me there. I've changed my handle, which brings me to the end of the knitting portion and kind of just a little update on the name and the handle, because some of you may have noticed that it's different. I did change the name of this channel to Every Stitch Counts, and I did change my handle on YouTube and my handle on Instagram to be the same to that. So it's Every Stitch Counts everywhere. I did that because, you know, I wasn't totally sold on the name I had before, which was Charlotte's Place. It just felt too about me. Like, this channel isn't really about me, though I obviously am a part of it and I put things on here that are about my life and whatnot, but it really is about the knitting and the making and the projects and the progress on things. And I also think that I really believe that, you know, lots of people I talk to, they say that, oh, like, I have these projects or these whips that are just sitting, like, rotting in a basket, and they're not making any progress on them. They're like, I hardly ever pick up my knitting, or they only work on it a little bit at a time. And that's totally okay. You know, there can be a lot of pressure, I think, on people who watch podcasts or follow, you know, knitting creative accounts of any genre. And you can feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough, or oh, I'm not really into knitting, or I'm not really into sewing or photography because I'm not producing a ton of stuff all the time. And that's just not true at all. If you only knit a couple stitches, if you only take a photo a month, if you only work a tiny bit on something, it still counts and you still do it, and it still is something that hopefully gives you joy, and you're still making progress even if it's at a slower rate than someone else. So I think that's why I was drawn to the name. It also is not the name of anything that I've seen, and it's a bit more unique to creative stuff, fiber related stuff. So that's my only non-knitting related update that I wanted to share with you all. But that kind of brings us to the end of this video. I'm so happy that you guys were all here. I hope you're all doing well. If you liked this video, please leave a comment. If you're so inclined, you may also wish to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe and like the video. It really helps out the channel, it helps me out, it gives me encouragement and joy to read those things and to know that people liked the video. So if you're so inclined, I would appreciate that. I'll see you next time.